What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence Daily MMA podcast recap for April 1st, 2020. I have not been able to do these last couple days. On Monday, I put out our regular episode, which definitely took a lot of my time since I had to chop that bitch up and get it posted. And then yesterday, I got kind of high and watched the Jay and Silent Bob reboot a couple times, which was real good. I watched it once and then I immediately watched it again with the commentary. Smoked 2 joints during the movies, and that was at night. So really, I'm just really tying all the weed connections together. But yeah, overall, been a good week so far for podcasts. So I wanted to get in here. We're gonna be releasing our commentary for. I don't know if we ever actually announced this. I guess we didn't. So this is the first announcement of it. Chris and I, after our podcast episode 152, recorded a commentary track for UFC Fight Night 7, which is the card that took place in Miramar. It's the first UFC card that took place in San Diego, as far as I can tell, based on my limited research right after that episode. It's the one of 3 cards that have taken place in San Diego, I believe, as well. So I think we're going to do a series on those and do essentially all the San Diego fight cards, the last of which, and the most recent one, since it's all but confirmed that this UFC San Diego card in May is getting canceled. But Chris and I were actually at the most recent San Diego UFC fight card, which was Todd Duffy versus Frank Mir. So we will definitely get to that one at some point as well. But that episode, or the commentary, should be dropping. I'm going to try and get that chopped and posted tomorrow after work. So it'll probably be like 6 Pacific, something like that. 5 or 6 Pacific is my goal, somewhere in there. So keep an eye out for that, because it's a drunk mess. Also, that edible I took during that episode, or I should say the 100 milligrams of edibles I took during that episode, it worked real well. So that's something to keep an eye on. Before I get into the stuff I've been listening to, I have finally got my battery on my car working again, which is a good thing to have during a goddamn quarantine, because I've been stuck inside. And that meant that I was able to go out and get, ignore the glass, this is my society glass, but I was able to go out and get some beer from Burning Beard, which is just down the street from me. Super dope San Diego brewery. Unfortunately, they're only doing to-go stuff right now out of the actual brew house out in El Cajon. Here, I got you guys on a... There you go. If you want to see the, I believe that has an address. Hopefully it'll focus, kind of. Maybe not. Anyway, they're out in El Cajon. They're like a couple miles from me. Probably not even a mile. And so I wanted to go support them. So I picked up a growler yesterday of their Circle of Hops beer, which was a collab with, you know what? I'll look it up right now. Here. Let's see. Burning Beard, Circle of Hops, which is a collaboration with... Why is it so hard to figure out who this is a collab with? It's written on the beer I drank yesterday, but it's not saying who it's a collab with. I wonder if it's a rotating collab. It might be a rotating collab. Anyway, I had that. It was delicious as always. Yeah, it was really, really good. And then today I am drinking on the other crowler I got, which is Ingsoc, I believe is how it's pronounced. I'm not sure. Here, I will read off the description from Untapped. Because I never had this beer. I haven't had any of their stouts, actually, that I remember, at least. And yeah, according to Untapped, I haven't had it. It is, here, I'll throw the fucking Untapped shit up there. Boom, Ingsoc. That way you can see what it is. So, let's see, 3.78 on Untapped, which for an IRS, or an Imperial Russian Stout, I don't know. Imperial Russian Stouts have a weird range, and 3.78 is still pretty high. But not quite as high as I would expect from a lot of Burning Beard stuff. Also, I forgot they have 0 descriptions on their motherfucking Untapped page, even though they update their tap list all the time. I don't understand why that would be the case, but it's cool, bro, because I'll go to your motherfucking website. Anyway, here, let me move my keys. Apologies for that noise. Okay. It is from Burning Beard's Ministry of Beer. Ingsoc is their Imperial Stout. Is an Imperial Stout on your taste buds. Brewed with enough roasty complexity to incite an Orwellian revolution. Ingsoc demand... Is this like a fucking 1984 reference that I don't understand? Because I haven't read 1984 since fucking 1990-something. Ingsoc demands total submission to its dark authority, party members, and pros. Okay, yeah, this is definitely... cannot escape its ubiquitous gaze. The Ministry of Beer is watching. So definitely is that... Backwards, that doesn't mean anything, right? Kosnye? Yeah, I don't think that's the thing. I don't know what it stands for. I need to go read fucking Orwell shit again, evidently. Oh, that's pretty good. It's definitely a little... Yeah, it's pretty good. It doesn't taste nowhere near 9%. I would put it in like the 6 or 7 range, which is interesting. It's definitely pretty hop forward as well. Pretty roasty. It's not like super chocolatey. It's more on like the roasty, hoppy end of stouts, especially IRSs, because a lot of times people use, especially with IRSs, they just become chocolate and malt bombs to try and like super sweet to try and hide a lot of the booze. And just because they have to put so much sugar in it to try and get the ABV up. But yeah, this is actually like a pretty... I would say this is like a pretty fucking hop-forward stout. That's interesting. Yeah, I get the ratings. It's nowhere like... There are ranges of stouts. Like, I would put this more towards like the Silva Stout from Green Flash kind of stout, as opposed to like a... like the Butcher from Society, which is like super fucking chocolate forward and just like a big creamy chocolate bomb that is like very boozy. This is much more on like the Silva Stout side, where it's got the malt backbone is definitely still there, and it definitely still has some chocolate but mostly roasty notes. But there's a very like distinct hoppy backbone on it, or like yeah, it finishes very dry, too, which is pretty rare for a lot of stouts these days that are this high of ABV, because at 9%, normally it doesn't finish nearly that dry. That is a good, man, that was a good grab from me. I like that a lot. Okay, cool. So now that I've gotten through my favorite part of the podcast, we'll talk about MMA podcasts. I'm joking. Let's see. So I've listened to a lot of stuff this week. I'm just going to rattle through it, kind of mention some stuff that came up, and kind of just give you a base note of what I liked and what I think might be on the more skippable side. I'm also trying to go through and not only figure out days that people are recording, but also figuring out, because it's very relevant as to the topics, especially with it being the longest 14 days in all of fucking combat sports, probably, as well as just trying to, like, is this more MMA focused, or like are they just talking about fucking fights that are theoretically booked, or are they actually talking about the global pandemic that's going on? So let's see. Off the top, I listened to Come On Now, episode 22. This is it's cool. It's Trent Reinsmith talking about a lot of the people who are coming out against fight cards continuing, like Julie Kedzie. And he also talks about how Dana is still trying to put on shows, which, get ready to hear that over and over again. Because what the fuck? Severe MMA did a live chat with Graham on Shawnee Podcast, of course, and Graham on, I believe actually they did it on their YouTube channel. And also I'm trying not to say Graham, because I know they hate that. But I don't know how to not say Graham. Like, it's a cracker that you guys say is said different. So I'm going to go with Graham. I'm going to go with that. I don't know. It's kind of how it's spelled. Anyway, he talked a lot about the Diaz brothers and just kind of do a retrospective on their career, which was a lot of fun. I also listened to Severe MMA episode 254, which I believe it was recorded on either Saturday or Sunday. I'm pretty positive. And again, this is my daily/weekly PSA to tell you to follow Sean Sheehan BA on Twitter, because his coverage of The Wire during the pandemic is my fucking spirit animal during this thing. It honestly makes me the happiest out of everything that's happening during the pandemic. It's just like seeing Shawnee Podcast losing his mind about, like, spoiler, oh my god, they got Omar's boyfriend, and you're like, oh yeah, that is, oh, it's so good. So can't recommend that highly enough. But yeah, Severe MMA episode 254, really good. A lot of talk just about the pandemic and it kind of shining a light on a lot of the problems in the MMA world and in MMA media, which is an interesting discussion that actually he got into a little bit on the Q&A later in the week that I'll bring up in a bit. But yeah, really interesting. And I like the discourse that he's having. You're starting to very, very quickly and very severely see who is bought and sold in the MMA media space. It's fucking... as someone who has been like very, very, very vocal about who acts as if they're bought and sold, holy shit, has there been a line drawn in the sand that is like... It's the goddamn Grand Canyon at this point. It's really easy to tell, like, oh, weird, Brett Okamoto, you are tweeting out about how fans are mad about everybody shitting on Khabib for not taking the fight, when the promoter, who you've constantly been putting out statements for, I mean, will say that you've been constantly taking statements from and not getting counter statements, they've been kind of supporting all that trash nonsense. And then for you to go after fans about it is... I'll say not a good look. And weird coincidence that Brett Okamoto stopped being a journalist when ESPN and the UFC merged. Weird coincidence. Let's see. Oh, wow. Probably not the only person we could say that about. Although we could have said that back in the Fox era as well. Anyway, weighing in, episode 47 is really interesting. I love how John McCarthy talks about John Jones, because he is one of the few people in the MMA media that just talks about John Jones in like a fucking dad. Like, he talks about John Jones like my dad would talk about me, where he's like, just such a fuck up. Like, absolutely fucking up, making the sport look bad. He should absolutely be going to jail for some time, and I just appreciate the way he talks about it. Because a lot of MMA media is treating John Jones with fucking kid gloves, even though he's a 30-year-old man who as a fuck up and as a drunk. Like, come on, bro. Come on. Like, 100% everyone around him is responsible. What the fuck are we doing? Like, as a dude who has passed DUI sobriety tests that I've been given, I was definitely sober when I took those tests. But I passed those tests because I was sober. But definitely sober. But also, just like, come on, guys. Like, even... I passed those tests and I got a severe talking to from a lot of people I know. Who were at the party I was going to. but not the point. Yeah, my point is, maybe someone needs to act like an adult around John Jones, because John Jones isn't acting like a fucking adult. MMA on the Rocks episode 183 was really interesting. They talk a bit about doing a swap cast with the Loaded Joe's guys, which that reminds me I need to look that up. Because, I believe it's technically not a swap cast, which is a Doug Stanhope construct, which basically you do a podcast together and then you both put it out on both your feeds so that it spreads word about both of your shows, which is a great idea, and hopefully we will do more of in the future. It's kind of weird for us because, like, at a certain point it's almost a conflict of interest to do something like that. Although then again, I love Sean Sheehan, and I talk about how great Sean Sheehan is all the time. Sean Sheehan's not on our can't miss or catches all the time, so I try and keep it as I don't know. I'm one of those people who would kill myself if I feel like I was giving anybody favors just because they're nice to me. But that's also why not a lot of people are nice to me. So, what are you gonna do? Anyway, NSFW MMA show, episode 249. I really like this one. It was interesting to hear how John portrayed himself now versus how he acts. And hearing them talk about Habib and Tony getting canceled. It's definitely off the rails. And, what was it? I keep wanting to call him Paul F. Tompkins, but that's not his name. Kyle Steele. He sounds so much like Paul F. Tompkins. It drives me nuts. But he goes on a big diatribe about drunk drivers, which I agree. Drunk driving is not a good thing to do. I've had people in my life affected by it a lot. A lot of people in my life negatively. Known people who died because of it. I agree. It's a bad thing. Definitely don't need a 30-minute speech about how if a guy's drinking at your house and you refuse to let him drive, or else you're going to fist fight him. Oh, god damn it. Okay, yeah, nope, not back up. Oh, you gotta love the internet fucking up during a goddamn pandemic. Alright, looks like we're back. Jesus Christ. Fucking internet melted down on me, which was not my favorite. NSFW MMA show. Yeah, they didn't put their name in the description. I can't remember dude's name. I think he's hilarious, but I can't remember his name. But he was going in on how he likes that John Jones is just doubling down on his dumb gimmick, and just like embracing how he's a giant dick. I liked it. I thought it was funny. So yeah, overall, liked the episode. Not my favorite. Got a little preachy at times, but I liked it quite a bit. Anakin Florian, episode 243. Pretty solid. Bray Longo is out here just fucking chucking fire at fools. Also, Forrest Griffin does call in during that episode. And they talk a bit about DC just spoiling the shit out of Tiger King on Twitter. So I thought that was good. Oh, also Anakin Florian I started listening to yesterday on Tuesday, the 31st of March. Let's see. Fights Gone By, episode 202. Danaher. A lot of talk about like the Danaher guys and their dumb comments, along with like Sam Alvey and some of the other stuff. A lot of talk about where how good Tiger King is, and how evidently there's a Louis Theroux doc that he did on Joe Exotic like handful of years back that's on Netflix right now. So might end up watching that tonight if I don't watch Tommy Buns' new special. Yeah, and it's a good episode of Fights Gone By. Didn't stand out to me too much, but I liked it. MMA and Beyond, despite my reports last week about them not doing an online show, they're doing an online show remotely now. Episode 108. They had Ray, Steve, and Manimal. And yeah, it was a fun one. Manimal is absolutely terrible with technology, as you would expect. Oh my god, does dude need to either back all the way off the mic, or he needs to drop his levels to like 35 decibels if he's going to scream into it the way he likes to. But yeah, it's an experience for sure. It's a pretty fun one to be honest. Weekly Scraps, episode 73, like that quite a bit, which is the show Aljo does. He also, I don't know if it's a regular thing. I don't know that they clarified it exactly, but Cody Merrow, who is the guy who's kind of been putting Aljo's show together for quite a while, done all the editing. He also is the dude who kind of lays out a format and everything. You would know if you're on Twitter or if you at all follow Aljo's podcast, you'd probably know who Cody is. Cody also is the guy who right now is doing a lot of the Anakin Florian stuff in the background. So big shouts to him because I like him quite a bit. He's very good at what he does, and he's not intrusive in a podcast. He reminds me a lot of like a producer Chris type, where like they chime in, but they chime in at the right times and they chime in knowledgeably. And they clearly know the sport, and yeah, I just appreciate it. So it's cool hearing that. I hope we hear more Cody Merrow going forward. Although I do want to hear more Steve Lee on that show. Steve Lee from MMA Beyond and just from Longo Weidman is that dude. I like that dude a lot. If Steve Lee started a podcast, I would subscribe to that podcast immediately, and not just because of this show, just because in general I like Steve Lee. I think he's hilarious. Let's see. BYM, Believe You Me, episode 212. DJ Mikey B back in the building, y'all. Bisbing is DJing again. He's gonna start doing DJ sets on the rigs, evidently, which I'm fucking very excited for. He's gonna do it on Instagram, I believe is what he said. Because, you know, everybody's on IG Live nowadays, especially after, what's my dude's name? Not Trey Songs. I can't believe I almost said Trey Songs. Tory Lanez. Jesus Christ. He's been doing quarantine radio, which, by the way, I should shout out. It's not the right quarantine radio. The right quarantine radio is It's The Real, who's been doing it since, I think, the 14th. And who is also just fire as hell. Like, they've been putting out the dopest shit. I still listen to that every morning right now because it just makes me feel better about life. So, yeah, big shouts to that. But DJ Mikey B is back in the building for Believe You Me, episode 212. A lot of Tiger King talk. And then Chael calls in quite a bit. And talks quite a bit about Submission Underground. Says some, like, super misty shit, which we'll see how that plays out. And then Harrington just gets lit on fire at the end of the episode, like he's a protester in Budapest? Was it Budapest where the monk burned himself? I don't remember. UFC Unfiltered, episode 380. Really good episode with Stephen Thompson and his dad. Just a really fun one. Jimmy and Matt Serra were recording it from home remotely. And then we are on to what I listened to today, which is DC and Helwani, episode 3, which was a fun one. Just about Habib being stuck in Russia and John getting arrested, that kind of stuff. Severe MMA Premium Q&A for April 1st, 2020. Like that quite a bit. A lot of talk from Shawnee Podcast, as I mentioned earlier, about how a lot of the MMA media is not critical enough about the John situation. Like, everybody's treating him with kid gloves, and like, it's kind of embarrassing. Like, in no other sport would media just completely just be like, oh, well, you know, he clearly needs help, and you know, hopefully he learns from this, rather than being like, oh, yeah, no, this is the third or fourth or fifth or sixth time he's done something like this, and shows zero remorse and gets zero actual punishment. So, for sure, the lesson he's learning is that John Jones can do what the fuck John Jones wants. Which, I mean, I'm envious. If I could just drive around Albuquerque like Yosemite Sam, firing guns and drinking Jorge Masvidal's mezcal. Which, by the way, where the fuck do you get Jorge? Do you just have to blow Malky to get Jorge Masvidal's mezcal? Is that how that works? Because I cannot, or it's probably Abe that you have to blow, because I don't know. Really, I bet if you blow one, the other one, they have like the telepathic response on that shit, I would assume. But, like, what it's so hard to find Recuerdo because of course my dumbass is like, first thing I should do, look up if Recuerdo's hit California yet, because I keep looking for it. I can't find it from fucking anywhere in California. I can't find it on Astor Wines, which is in New York, and they have everything. Speaking of which, shouts to Astor Wines. This is not a plug or anything, but I bought I bought 4 bottles of Heaven Hill Bourbon, which is like the just fifths. But that's only because they were shipping fifths. Otherwise, I would have probably bought 4 handles. But it's a really good bourbon. It's like $11 a piece. Heaven Hill, of course, makes a bunch of super, super dope high-end whiskey. So, worth checking it out. But anyway, can't find Recuerdo anywhere. It drives me nuts. Morning Combat, episode 36. Yeah, it's a 6. Fun episode again. A lot of Tiger King talk, a lot of Billy Joe Saunders talk. Yeah, it's just fun overall. I'm really, that show's growing on me, and I feel like they've kind of fallen into a rhythm. It's also they're not doing the double talk stuff as much as they were, where they're like doing 1.5 times speed and just as like people talking, because they're in the same room, and because Brian Campbell is so manic that he absolutely changes the pace of conversations. So it's nice that now they're over Skype, it's slowed down a little bit. Brian Campbell's not like fucking just... He gives me anxiety listening to it because of how pressured and quick his speech is in conversations. And it's half references, which means he's queuing up references just so he can fill time to actually make his next point. Which I appreciate. I like it. I do the same thing. It's very stressful to listen to. So I'm glad that's toned down a little bit. Co-main event, episode 395 was pretty good. They did not end up talking about UFC 2. It sounds like that's probably going to be on the Power Hour this Friday. But they did talk quite a bit about trying to deal with UFC in 249 and kind of the idea of how to deal with fans, or how to deal with being a fan of MMA right now, especially a fan of UFC fights with all the bad actions that are being taken by them. And the live chat was also good. I enjoyed that as well, which I listened to. A-Side live chat for March 30th. Alexander K. Lee is in for Pizzi, and they had Lee Malay McFarlane on. That was a pretty fun episode. I liked that one quite a bit. I really liked MMA Yesterday, episode 41, UFC 41, with Kyle Steele and Keith Schillen. Really good. A lot of, it's just a fun card, and hearing them break it down was a lot of fun. It's also a pretty goofy card with, like, a lot of just straight characters on it. Like, you got Matt Lidlin, you got Phil Baroni. Shit, you got them fighting each other. You got Dean Thomas, Eve Edwards, a ton of, like, characters on that card, so it's definitely a fun one. Let's see, the last couple, The Writer and the Fighter, episode 63. They talk a lot about Jake winning it. Submission Underground this weekend, which big shouts to Jake Smith for that. And it's a lot of food talk. It's a lot of Submission Underground and food talk, and I'm fucking here for it. Also, Jake's girlfriend, stop eating his goddamn chicken skin. That's a savage move, and we both know it. There's like some fucking... I don't even know the level of passive aggressiveness to continue to eat the chicken skin is... Oof, it's troublesome. It's troublesome. Ricky Simone needs to get his cousin in check. And let's see. Other than that, Beatdown for UFC 249 discussion. It's a lot of TJ and Nick Albert. Really good episode. I don't have in-depth notes for it or anything. I just liked it. And then probably what's going to be a can't miss for me this week is MMA Stories. Horn and Cox discuss negotiating with Dana White. Oh man, does Monty Cox have a whole lot of crazy stories about dealing with Dana White over the years, as well as Joe Silva. Here, you know what? I'll drop, since you guys are the fucking hardcores, I'll drop you a couple hints. At one point, Joe Silva and Dana offer Ellenberger 28-28 for a title shot after coming off a win over Jake Shields, and Monty was able to get that all the way up to 73-73, which is basically, it's close to 3 times the amount that they were originally offered. It's fucking bonkers. They also talk about how bad they fucked Jens Pulver back in the day, because he was stuck under an old SEG contract where he was making 11-11 to fight fucking BJ Penn, who was getting 20-20, and then they try and negotiate and be like, hey, at least start us off at 20-20 because that's what BJ made. And they're like, yeah, go fuck yourself. We'll give you 13-13. And so that's when Jens left for Japan, which absolutely the right move. What the fuck? It's a lot of crazy stories like that. Also, evidently, Monty Cox is a miracle worker because he got some of the yellow cards overturned in rings and ended up getting that motherfucking money. So, that show is really underrated. MMA Stories with Horn and Cox. You guys are going to hear me talk about it on the main episode this week. It's absolutely can't miss. So, if you guys are not subscribed to the Between Rounds Patreon, can't recommend that enough. I believe TJ is doing a deal right now where for $1 you get access to everything for the next month or so. So, Jesus Christ, go sign up for $1. You will get so much good content, and he's been cranking out content in the last 2 weeks. So, can't recommend that highly enough. And then other than that, I'm gonna go drink this beer. I'm gonna go do a bunch of stuff for girlfriend Karen before she gets all pissed at me. I'm gonna make some probably bread tonight. I've been baking, y'all, and not just the traditional sense, which I've also been doing. But on that note, I guess we'll go ahead and call it. Till tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow. I'll do one of these. I'll probably be back Friday as well. And I should have our commentary for UFC Fight Night 7 at the Marine base in Miramar up tomorrow. So look forward to that, and I would highly recommend drinking with it. That would be my advice. But until tomorrow, y'all, go do something decadent. We out. Oh, and cheers to Burning Beard. God damn it. Go support your local brewery, wherever they're at. Go support your local brewery. They need it. Till tomorrow.